had become too stressful for him. Now, Mark had a lot of good luck finding a really good job right away. But it was really bad luck for me because I was the one that was going to have to tell my parents that we were moving their 2 toddler grandsons cross-country from Lancaster to Salt Lake City, Utah. And then I was going to have to tell my 2 little boys that I was going to have to pull them from the preschool that they loved and leave all their friends. Now, luckily, my parents didn't take the news as bad as I thought they would because they planned out their whole summer, which was going to be at our house in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they were going to visit all the national parks. So that turned out fine, the 5 years we lived there. But as soon as we moved to Salt Lake in February of 1987, I started calling around to all the preschools, hoping I could get my 2 little boys in. But it was February. Most of the year was over already, and it was Salt Lake City, Utah. They were all full. But several of them suggested that I join the Hogle Zoo. It was a big zoo out there, and we only lived 10 minutes away from it. And they said there's a lot of educational programs there almost every day for preschoolers. And so that's what I did. I got a yearly pass at the Hogle Zoo, and it was great. We went there once or twice a week, and it finally got warm out there in the end of May. And I put little shorts on both of my boys and loaded them up in Woody. Woody was the car I drove back then. It was this big maroon station wagon, you know, the one with the wood panels on the side. And the boys were all excited, and we're going to the zoo, and I was excited too, until I pulled into the parking lot, and I realized every mommy in Salt Lake City with their multiple toddlers showed up at the zoo that day because it was really nice. So the zoo was actually a zoo that day, and as we walked in, they told us that all the educational programs were canceled that day. There was just way too many kids. Now, I knew if I told my little boys we were going to leave, that they would be disappointed. And, you know, the zoo is an education in itself. So I said, okay, we're just going to stay an hour, but you need to agree on one section of the zoo. Now, you have to understand, my boys didn't agree on anything, but just was my lucky day because they both wanted to go to the big cat section. And they both agreed that they wanted to start the lion cage. It was really my lucky day because when we went to the big cat section, it wasn't near as crowded as the other sections we had passed. And when we went to the lion cage, it was the oddest thing. I never saw such calm, peaceful lions in my entire life. They had this look on their face like they were satisfied. But the zoo was really noisy in this section. And all of a sudden, I heard this extremely loud screaming noise. It sounded like someone was being murdered. And my little boys, I was tightly gripping both of their hands, and they immediately let go of my hands and ran in that direction to see what was going on. Now, even though the section wasn't near as crowded as the other sections, there was still a lot of kids. And my boys were little, and they could dart through the kids like this. And I was frantically trying to keep up with them. I finally caught up to them. They were at the cougar cage. They had their little hands gripping the bars and their little faces pressed in between. And they were mesmerized as they were watching Daddy Cougar pounding the heck out of Mommy Cougar. And she was screaming her head off. It's just my luck. I happened to take my 2 toddlers to the zoo the day that it was all the big cats were mating. Didn't matter which cage I looked at, the jaguars, the cheetahs, the leopards, they were all doing it. Except the lions, who obviously already had. Now, I quickly grabbed my 3-year-old's hand and tried to run out of there because he was at that age. He questioned everything, and I didn't want to answer the question he was going to ask. But it was too late. He looked up at me, those brown eyes of his, and he said, "Mom, what are they doing?" And I said, "They're playing." That's the first thing that came to me, and I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for my 5-year-old. He seemed to know everything from the day he was born. And he looked at me all disgusted. He goes, "Mom, they aren't playing. They're mating." He had to accentuate mating like he thought I didn't know what they were doing. Now, my 3-year-old looked up at me and he said, "Mom, what's mating?" Now, luckily, I didn't have to explain it to him because Mr. Smarty Pants did. He said, "Adam, Daddy Cougar is planting a seed in Mommy Cougar, and she's going to have a baby cougar in a couple months." I thought that was brilliant. I couldn't have explained it better myself, But I still wasn't sure how he knew this. He hadn't even been in kindergarten yet. I looked down at my 3-year-old and he was going like this, like he knew exactly what mating was now. Now, I thought that this was really bad luck for me, that I happened to take my little boys to the zoo the day that all the big cats were mating. But I realized it was good luck because I thought, when they're teenagers, I'm not going to have to explain anything to them because they seem to know everything at 3 and 5. And it was really good luck for all the other mommies that day because every cage we went to, even though there was no educational programs that day, didn't matter. My little boys had it covered because every time a kid said, "Mom, what are they doing?" Well, my little boys would yell out, "They're mating." Thank you.